Well, hello. So, things have happened. So if you have not already read the title of this video, this was certainly not the update I expected to give. So let's do a little light get ready with me as I talk about what exactly is going on. Let's get as comfortable as we can here. I need my little propper. So about 3 weeks ago now, I came on here and I was doing I think it was just my workday vlog. It's such a journey. And I talked about that I was doing my first solo trip. I was going to Central America for a month and a half by myself. I was doing that while we were back on the East Coast before the holidays. I was going to go to Belize, Guatemala, Costa Rica, ended out in Panama, and then fly home back to the PA area to be with Jean and my family for the holidays before we start our next year in the bus on the road. But as you can see, I am not backpacking in Central America right now. I am not in the bus. I am at my mom's house, and our travels are officially on pause for the time being. So let's get into what happened as I try my absolute hardest to open this moisturizer with one working hand. I got it open. Okay, so my arm is broken in two places, one of which is my humerus, the other being my wrist, and I also tore my tricep tendon. So the story behind how that happened starts with me on November 14th. I left for my month and a half backpacking trip to Central America. I flew from Pennsylvania to Belize, and to kind of make sense of this a little bit more, or at least what I've been doing to make myself feel better, not a single day on this trip went according to plan. And by plan, I don't mean like accommodation or where I was supposed to go. There was just always some sort of hurdle every single day, to the point where it kind of was just like laughable. Like I kept texting my mom and Jean and being like, I don't understand like what's going on. It felt like the world was telling me like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing right now, right off the bat. So when I first flew in, like I said, I went to Belize. My plan was to land in Belize City and then take a ferry over to an island called Key Calker, which is known for being like very backpacker friendly. There's lots of hostels. It's super tiny. And my plan was to start there because it was much more of like an islandy, slow-paced feel for me to really settle into being on my own and staying in a hostel for the first time before I went to something a little bit more intense like Guatemala and figuring out the transportation there. Next, I'm going to do a little serum. This is just a repairing serum by Paul's Choice. So as soon as I landed in Belize City, I was actually like super excited. I felt very proud of myself. I had booked my shuttle over to the island already, which was nice because I didn't have to like figure it out while I was already super overwhelmed. As soon as I got there, I had learned that a tropical storm, which was apparently it was either going to be a tropical storm or a Cat 1 hurricane, was barreling towards the island of Key Calker and going to be making landfall in Belize. So that was kind of my first sign because it just felt so crazy that was happening. But I talked to other girls that were staying at my hostel. I found out kind of what their plan was, and I decided that I'm just going to have to chalk it up, and it wasn't meant to be that I was supposed to be spending time there right now. And so I got an Airbnb on the mainland so I'd be a little safer and away from the water. And I decided, okay, I'm just going to take 3 days, wait out the storm here, and then I will just dive right on into Guatemala, and it will be a funny story one day. So once the storm had passed, I had booked my bus and I was officially going to Guatemala, which I was very excited about. I would say that was what I was the most excited for of the whole trip. Obviously, I love Costa Rica, but I'd been there before, and so I had these like crazy hikes and stuff planned in Guatemala and places reserved, like different hostels that I had reserved months ahead of time, and it was what I was the most excited for. So I got on my bus that day, and I learned about 3 hours into the bus ride that the way to cross the border into Guatemala was completely flooded. So like that was a whole ordeal. The whole day was supposed to take 4 hours, and it ended up taking like 8 or something like that. I got in super late to my first stop in Guatemala. But again, I just kept saying like the whole time, like these will be stories one day. Maybe this kind of stuff happens all the time with backpacking. Like I didn't really know for sure like kind of what the what the deal is with that. And my mom just kept being like, this is so crazy that all this stuff keeps happening to you. Like, I don't know. It was just weird. But anyway, I made it to Guatemala, and I decided last minute that instead of going from this island called Flores over to like the main city area of Antigua where I was going on that hike, I had like 2 days to spare. There is a really pretty national park called Sumuk Champe, which is like right near this little town called Lanquin, and it was out of the way, but I just happened to look it up and I found this beautiful hostel called Zephyr Lodge, which you can look up if you want to. It is a very, very nice place. And they had a 1-bed opening. So I like took it as a sign that I should kind of do a change of plans, embrace everything that's been happening, and book it. So that is what I did. Also, I'm doing gua sha right now because with all the medicine I'm on and all the just like laying, I just feel so like swollen. I think my body is just obviously really fighting to heal me, and it is annoying. So I'm trying gua sha, and I don't think I'm doing it right, but that's okay. So I finally do the long driving day to Lankeen, and then I take the private shuttle to my hostel. It was so beautiful, easily one of the most beautiful ones I had ever seen. I ended up making some friends that night. They had a really good dinner, and they had like a flip cup tournament, and I was just really excited about my decision to go here because, like I said, it was not on my plans. And I just felt like I had made the right decision. Cut to what the accommodations were. So a lot of times in hostels, at least if you're doing it in a more budget way like I was trying to, you could do a private room, which I hadn't done, or you can do kind of the group dorms they're called, and it's usually anywhere between like 4 and 10 beds. They're usually bunk beds, which is an important aspect of the story. And for all the other ones I had stayed in so far, which was just 3 other ones at this point, I always just happened to get the bottom bunk. And so when they gave me the tour of my room, I had realized this was officially my first time being assigned the top bunk. So I go in, I put all of my backpacks and all of my things into the little locker that the rooms and the beds come with when you book them. I changed around to go out for dinner, and I went up onto my bunk and I like charged my phone and my iPad, just like started getting settled so that when I came in from dinner a little bit later I would be ready to go to bed because I had an early morning the next day. I did notice that when I was on top of the bunk that the ladder was like very small, and it was kind of awkward to climb up and like get on, and then there was no banister on the side of the bed, so like when you're up, if you accidentally dropped your phone, it would go like crashing down on the floor. And so I like remember making a mental note of that and being like, okay, make sure you stay all the way against the wall when you're sleeping tonight, because it was a far drop, and it also had a tile floor, so it wouldn't be a very comfortable fall. So cut to, I go to bed, and at around 4 o'clock in the morning, I really had to get up and pee, honestly. I have to go to the bathroom so many times throughout the night because I just drink a lot of water. But the thing is, each of the beds have a little private light, like an individual light, and I remember being like, I don't want to turn that on because I don't want to wake up all the other people that are sleeping, because everybody had to leave that day at around 7:30 to do the national park tour that I was going on. And so I was like, that's fine, I'm just gonna try and climb down and like not wake anyone up. Cut to, as I'm climbing down, I don't know exactly what happened, if I missed a step or it just happened so fast, but before you know it, I had fallen from the top bunk onto the tile floor, thus introducing the broken arm. All I remember is being really out of it. Like, I didn't know exactly what had happened. I just remembered that I was like making noises, and the 2 girls that were sleeping in the same room as me like woke up and immediately started like helping me because they obviously heard the noise of my body catapulting onto the floor. Everybody was really, really great. The manager of the hostel came in, and we weren't sure if I had just dislocated my shoulder. Like, we had no idea. Like, I knew it hurt, but I kind of didn't know if it was like the shock of it happening, if it would get better. And so my plan was that I was going to go to a little doctor right there in the small town that I was in, and then I was going to see if I could just get my shoulder popped back into place and continue on the tour later that day. As the day was going on, I was realizing that I was in more and more pain. Like, it didn't feel like, I think my body might have had a lot of adrenaline or like shock in the beginning. I started to kind of think, I don't know if this is just a dislocated shoulder. I think it might be broken. The doctor who I saw didn't feel comfortable trying to pop it back into place because he said if it was broken, it would do a lot more damage. And I am so happy that that did not happen, because I ended up going to a hospital about 2 hours away a little later in the morning, where I learned that I had completely fractured my humerus, and I had also fractured my wrist pretty badly, and the doctor had let me know they were both surgical. So obviously hearing this is when it kind of came into perspective for me that my trip was over. Mind you, it was less than 1 week in. It was about 6 days into the trip. This is when I started just really freaking out. I, at that point, thought I was going to have surgery in Guatemala. I just was completely alone. I had found like the only doctor that I could like really communicate with at the hospital at the time, because my Spanish isn't that good, like not enough to have a full-blown conversation, especially a medical one. So I immediately called my mom and Jean decided to book a flight to Guatemala City, pick me up so that I didn't have to do the travel day back, because one arm with 2 backpacks isn't really a thing, let alone just navigating all of the travel to get there. This was an awful day, basically. Doing a little bit of a glow mist. My whole face is just so dry. So from here is when I kind of had to come to the conclusion that I needed to just get through the next 24 hours, and then I would be with Jean, and then I would be on my way home, where I could like really focus on the recovery plan, the healing, and just like make all those plans. But the thought of having to figure that all out, when I just had to figure out first where I was sleeping that night, how I was getting to the airport, which was 8 hours away, was very overwhelming. And so I honestly kind of like disassociated a little bit and was just focusing on the next step that I had to do, which made a lot of difference and is what stopped me from, I mean, honestly, just completely breaking down. So I had this hostel booked for one more night, and I figured I might as well do that. There was a restaurant there so I could still eat. There was a front desk and a lot of people. They also already knew what was going on, and so I knew that I would probably be able to get more help that way if I just stayed. So I took the 2-hour drive from the hospital back to my hostel at Zephyr Lodge. I stayed the night. That was probably the most painful night ever. You can't lay down straight when you have a broken humerus. It just like doesn't work. So I just basically sat in my hostel bed the entire night. I got a few hours of sleep here and there, just like upright. And then the next morning I made the 8-hour bus ride somehow all the way to Guatemala City, where Jean then landed and picked me up. There was a lot more to the story of getting home and all that stuff, but I posted a lot about that over on our TikTok and Instagram if you're interested in hearing like the full story of that. But basically now what the plan is I am officially day 4 post-op. I had surgery on both my humerus and on my wrist, where they also found out that I tore my bicep tendon and it got stuck in the break, which is disgusting, and also was very validating to me because it was so painful and I couldn't ever really relieve the pain. Like no amount of painkiller, nothing. I could just never really get comfortable, and realizing that there was like a tendon issue as well with the break made a lot of sense to me. Now that everything is repaired, I am honestly going back and forth between moments where I feel like I have a positive mindset, such as like right now, where I'm excited to just make content and just kind of resume my life and appreciate the fact that I have a house where I can heal, I have a job where I can kind of take things at my own pace, and just recognizing that and feeling happy in that. On the other side, having complete breakdowns, feeling very, very overwhelmed, feeling completely helpless, all those things. I can't really do much without help right now, which is just annoying. There are things I want to do. I want to sleep comfortably laying down. I want to be able to shower. I want to just be able to get up off of my little recliner and like do something. That's just not in the cards right now. I will be going to physical therapy about once a week right now for the next about like a month and a half. It looks like it's going to be probably like an 8-week recovery time, and obviously from there on forward I'll have to be a little bit careful, probably continue my physical therapy for several months. My doctor said we'll basically be in touch for like the next year to make sure that everything is working okay, but I'm just focusing right now on trying to look at the bright side and also allowing myself to be frustrated that this winter is looking completely different than I originally thought it was. For the time being, we are not in the bus. I just think it would make things really complicated for no reason. I just honestly couldn't imagine doing that right now, but we're going to be switching back and forth between my mom's house, Jean's mom's house, maybe treat ourselves to like a little Airbnb, something like that, and then just being happy that at least it's winter when this is happening, not summer, and hopefully this summer we will be completely back to normal and back to our regularly scheduled travels and everything, and this will one day be kind of a funny story. So that is my big update, as well as the full extent of how much a get ready with me can actually be with one arm. My plans on this channel, I think, are to just keep you guys kind of updated. I hope to be able to vlog when I can kind of do more, maybe when we get back into the bus a little bit. But if you see that there is a big absence, this is why. It's kind of all new to me, and I don't really know how interesting my life will be for the next few weeks, but that is the update. I love you guys. Thank you for following along, and if you have any good book or movie recs, please leave them in the comments, because I am 6 seasons into Grey's Anatomy in 1 week, and that speaks for itself.